This is a drawing of the Crusader Mandalorians, which are basically the original, or not original, it's like the earliest version of their armour, and it's very tribal and doesn't really have a specific checklist to include on the armour besides the T-shaped visor and a couple of standardised pieces of armour. Not even really, it's completely customised to the wearer, and it was very interesting having to draw this because usually drawing armour plates, it's something very uniform, very even, and this drawing all the organic shapes of the bones and the fabric is a challenge, but it was fun and a new experience. I've been using my Unipin fine liners, which are amazing. I also use Faber-Castell, but my preference is Unipin because it's got a more rigid nib. Yeah, and I'm using the 0.1. I don't usually use much else besides maybe a 0.5 from time to time and a brush. And I also can use the microns, pigment microns. They're much more favoured among more comic book oriented artists, but they can be a bit more expensive, run out quicker, and they're not as much of a rewarding experience to use. I did some stippling techniques on this and it worked well. I was going to use some more blocky sort of very large shapes for this, but I decided against it because I wanted the bones to really look like bones and the fabric to look gritty. Yeah, quite a few shadows on this, and pencil I use switches from time to time. To be honest, it doesn't really matter what pencil you use unless it's your preference. I recently switched to H pencils, hard pencils, instead of the soft B pencils, just because it takes less effort to smudge the B pencils, and it just gets annoying when you're doing your line art. And also you can see them from underneath much more clearly. Like with this, I didn't even rub out the pencil lines underneath, but it's barely noticeable. In fact, I almost add something to it. So I'm using Copics. I've only got a set of 12 Copics, but they're warm grey colours, so it's much more of it's a monotone scheme of Copics I have, and lots of people recommend starting out with monotone. But then again, it's also, I've heard much advice about just using greys and putting a singular colour over the greys, and it makes a very different effect. So this was a ton of fun to draw, very different, very interesting. And then these Crusaders were inspired by the mythosaurs of Mandalore, so they hunted them out, and it was like a part of the design I used in the torso and stuff. Anyway, subscribe if you feel like it, like the video, and give me some feedback in the comments.